I've said it once and I will say it again. He is the most bitter there was, the most bitter there is, and the most bitter there ever will be. Bret, the bitter man Hart, just cannot stop saying negative things about the immoral Hulk Hogan brother. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling. Just want to point something out. Hulk Hogan, God. Hulk Hogan, greatest of all time. Hulk Hogan changed the entire business, revolutionized wrestling. Hulk Hogan is on every Mount Rushmore. He is at the top. Bret Hart, just a bitter, sad, insufferable man that honestly, outside of work rate, wasn't that good and won't really be remembered. So it is what it is. Jealousy, in my opinion. Bret wants to know maybe why Hogan supposedly kept him down. Maybe Hogan just knew that Bret Hart was shit. How about that? Maybe Hogan looked at Bret and he thought, this little jabroni who's not larger than life, who only knows how to wrestle and have good in-ring work rate, this guy wearing pink fucking tights, he's not the man to replace me. Maybe that's what Hogan thought when it came to Bret Hart. But Bret Hart's been talking about Hogan. He's called him selfish. He's called him a roadblock. He's called him a bullshitter. And it's like 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks since the death of Hulk Hogan, and already Bret Hart could not resist taking personal shots, digs at Hulk Hogan. I just don't understand this. I really don't. Now, yes, I'm not saying that Bret can't do interviews and whatnot. And if Hulk Hogan, if the topic of Hogan gets brought up, of course, Bret can discuss it. But why does the guy feel the need to just spew shit? Why does he feel the need to throw digs at Hulk Hogan when the guy is not even been buried? For what? I mean, I can't even remember. When was his funeral? I mean, the guy's not even been dead. He's been dead about 10 days. And already we've got Bret just taking needless shots. If you wanted to talk about Hogan and the impact, you could just say, yeah, he was legendary, he had a huge impact, and move on. But of course, no, Bret won't do that. He will say that Hogan had a big impact in the wrestling industry, but there's always going to be a but in there. And following that but is just going to be a bunch of shit that Bret Hart wants to spew. This is the most bitter guy that I think we've ever seen in wrestling, hands down. He is insufferable. I cannot stand Bret Hart. I've never been a Bret Hart fan. Even before shoot interviews or we learned about these wrestlers on social media, I was never interested in Bret Hart. There was just something about the guy that I never took to. Yeah, he could wrestle and whatnot, but he was boring. It is what it is. Some people liked his whole anti-American Canadian heel run, and I'm not saying that was bad. That's probably the best part of his career. If you look at Bret's career, I'd say 97. That's probably the best run that he had in wrestling. But overall, for me, this guy is not a top star. This guy is not an A-tier legend. Not at all. Yet he will spend time, burying people that were actually good. So, speaking to the Ringer Wrestling podcast, Bret Hart acknowledged Hogan's role in shaping the industry, but accused him of never helping others rise to the top. Even though we've had a lot of wrestlers come out and say that Hulk Hogan helped, and a lot of black wrestlers at that have come out and said that Hulk Hogan was always nice to them, Hulk Hogan helped them. So we've seen a lot of wrestlers say the opposite here. Now, I don't know what Bret wants. Did Bret want Hogan in 91 to get down on his hands and knees and deliver him, handhold him the title? And, Bret, you're a much better worker than me. It's your turn to have the belt. Is that what Bret's ego needed? Did he need Hogan to massage his ego? Did he need Hogan to run wild on Bret's fucking ego? I mean, maybe that would cheer Bret up. Maybe that would be good enough for Bret. But honestly, when you think about Bret Hart, he's bitter pretty much towards everybody. There's not many people that Bret Hart doesn't have a bad word to say about. But this is what he said to the Ringer Wrestling podcast. He said, quote, Hulk Hogan never did that for anybody. He never looked out for anyone but himself. I always thought the day I won the belt, Hulk Hogan would come up to me and pat me on the back and tell me how glad he was I was the guy that they picked to pull the sword out of the stone for him. And unfortunately, that's not how it was. The second I won the belt, I was the enemy. and I had what he wanted. And we were never really friends again after that. When I was a little kid, you go to school, elementary school, there's just always some kids that are bullshitters, that just bullshit, classic bullshitters. That's just the way they are. But I think Hulk Hogan was a bullshitter. I always shake my head and wonder why he was such a roadblock for me. He wouldn't do anything for me, and he made sure, and I know this for a fact, he made sure that when I was in WCW, he made sure that they didn't do anything with. Don't do anything with him. Just leave him. Have him sit on the bench in the dressing room. End of quote. So, I mean, let's just dissect this a little bit here. Bret says that he thought Hogan would be happy. He expected Hogan to come up, pat him on the back, massage his ego, and just, tell him what he wants to hear, because Bret was the one that pulled the sword out of the stone for him. But that's not how it went down. Why should it go down that way? Honestly, why? Forget about this current day wrestling, because they're all pathetic and I don't respect any of them. But I'm talking about when wrestling was good. Who was really happy that the world title was on someone else? Nobody. Do you think Austin was ever happy when he didn't have the belt? Not saying he hated people, not saying he wished any, ill health on people, but when Austin wasn't the champion, he wasn't concerned about going around and patting people on, oh, good job, kid, what? He wasn't doing any of that shit. He wanted the belt. Austin wanted to be champion. And if Austin wasn't champion, Austin would be viewing that as a failure because he would want the belt. And why shouldn't Hogan feel the same way? John Cena, his run, pretty much the entirety of it, he pretty much, if he didn't have the belt, he was competing for the belt. John Cena wanted to be champion. Should John Cena give the belt away and pretend to be happy for other people? That's a loser mentality. In wrestling, you should want to be the top guy. You should want to be the world champion. Just like if this was a legitimate sport. If this was boxing, everybody wants to be the world heavyweight champion. If you get knocked out in a fight, are you gonna pat the guy in the back and go, oh, I'm proud of you, I'm happy for you? No, you're gonna be upset that you've lost the fight and that you're not the champion. So I don't know why Bret Hart's expecting Hogan to be over the moon. I don't know why Bret Hart's expecting Hogan to bow down and acknowledge him as the world champion. It just makes no sense. I mean, Bret seems to think the world revolves around him. He seems to think that everyone in wrestling should just cater to the Hitman, and that if he's the champion and everything's all right. Honestly, I cannot stand Bret Hart. He thinks the world revolves around him. Never takes any accountability for anything that he's done in his life. Even the Montreal Screwjob still holds grudges. It could be a man and admit, yeah, you know what? I was being employed by WWE. I should have did the right thing and dropped the belt. But no, he held them hostage, essentially, with the title. Biggest mark of all time. He is the biggest mark, and he is a mark for himself. And it's infuriating just listening to this guy. Overrated, honestly. Bret Hart, massively overrated. And so is the Bret Hart family. The Hart family, all overrated. So, yeah, and then he says he's a selfish roadblock. What does he expect? Does he expect Hogan just to lay down and let Bret be the number one guy in wrestling? This is a thing in the real world. If you're in a job, if you're in a workplace, 9 times out of 10, you will be competing against your colleagues for certain positions. When it comes to promotions, people aren't just going to lay down and create a pathway for you to get to the top. There's going to be, quote, roadblocks in everybody's, daily life. For example, Fog Wrestling, right? Us, we would maybe we would love to be the number one wrestling YouTube account, right? Maybe we'd love to have the biggest channel with the most views, most subscribers, and most watch minutes. But you know what? There's other wrestling channels out there that are bigger than us. And I guess technically, using Bret Hart's logic, you could call them roadblocks because they're blocking our path to the top. Are we going to sit here and bitch? Are we going to be like, oh, look at these YouTubers that are doing better than us. They should be bowing down and patting us on the back. No, fuck no. there's road, you know what I mean? You always have to overcome people, overtake people. You're always competing against people in everyday life. So, you know what, man? Bret's a loser. I'm not going to waste any more time speaking about Bret. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Even when, you know what, you hear about all the good things that Terry Boll's done. I know people are going to try and paint him to be this horrible guy. Oh, he's a MAGA. He's racist. We hear about all the good shit that Terry Boll's done. The people that he's actually saved and helped financially, Ric Flair and all that stuff. Was like 2 years ago, he helped some girl out of a burning car and all this. But, you know, in the wrestling business, a lot of people have said that Hogan has helped. I haven't heard many people come out and say all the things that Bret Hart's done. I've heard people give Bret Hart credit for him being their like hero or whatnot, or him being their influence in getting into the business. But what's Bret Hart really done? Who is Bret Hart went out of his way to help? People are going to... And people also, by the way, people put way too much credit on Bret Hart for Austin getting over. Yeah, did that submission match help? But it did. But it's disgusting. Some people pretend that without Bret, Austin wouldn't have been this big star. Austin was destined to go to the top with or without Bret. Did Bret help him? Technically, yeah, by feuding with him, of course. But do you think Bret wanted that? Do you think Bret went into that feud hoping to pat Austin on the back and say, oh, Austin, I'm glad you can be the guy that pulls the stone out for me? Do you think Bret went into his feud with Austin planning on, you know, helping elevate Austin to superstardom and helping Austin overtake Bret Hart? Absolutely not. So, Bret, you're full of fucking shit, alright? Wrestling business, everybody's entitled to want to be the number one guy. Everybody's entitled to want to get to the top. And I just think it's sad, man, that already, you know, Hogan, not even dead 2 weeks, and this guy's bashing the fuck at him. Fuck Bret Hart, that's my opinion on him. The shit, man. Never liked him, never will. Till next time. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Bret Hart. I'm interested in here, because I think these comments are just uncalled for, unnecessary. But am I surprised? Unfortunately not. Till next time, peace.